So we're going to start that right now so that anybody who missed the explanation of how the new membership goal setting worksheet can watch that video afterwards. But when we go into the breakout sessions, we will not be recording those breakout sessions so that you can talk about your specific club details and membership numbers freely without it being published anywhere. So without further ado, I want to jump into a screen sharing here and get started on talking about these new membership goal setting worksheets. These are being provided to us by the membership committee on the zone level. And we are now making them available to all of you as clubs for the first time this year. And so we wanted to make sure that we talk about what is on that worksheet and how it is intended to be used. And then we'll talk in more detail in the breakout sessions, what we can learn from it for particular problems that we may want to tackle in terms of membership growth. So what I have here on the screen is 4 example club worksheets that have different kinds of problems with their membership growth. Well, the first one has no problem, actually. It has a low retention. It has low attrition rate and high attraction rate. And we'll talk about that in more details in a second. The second example has a low retention problem because their attrition rate exceeds 15%. The third one has an insufficient new member attraction problem. And then the last one has both problems. And that's also how we're going to later on do our breakout sessions. So I'm going to use the one that has neither problem as an example of explaining what these rates are and then showing you how to fill out that worksheet. And if you scroll down on the worksheet, or if you have it printed out in front of you, of course, you will see that there's also a curve that shows you the actual membership growth in your club over the last several years as a membership history, which can be very useful. So let's talk about these big numbers here on top. The first one is the attrition rate. And this is a 3-year average that's computed based on your actual membership data from the RI database. And the attrition rate is the actual natural loss of members that occurs over those 3 years. So on average, this particular example club loses 10% of its members every year. Now, the interesting question, of course, is 10% a good number, a bad number? Is it low? Where is it on the spectrum? And to understand that, it helps to know that, for example, all US trade associations across the entire United States have an average attrition rate of 15%. Rotary International overall, globally, has an attrition rate of 14%. And 10% is pretty much as good as it can get. There's almost no organization that gets a lower attrition rate than 10% as a matter of fact. And that has to do with the fact that people are moving, changing locations, changing jobs, people are passing away. So there is sort of a lower limit to where attrition can be. But you want to be sort of in that range between 10 and 15%. So your success target for attrition is to be less than 15%. And if you can stay in that range of 10 to 15, then you're doing really well and can be a positively growing club. Now, sometimes people talk about member retention. And so you might be wondering, why are we talking about attrition, which is, of course, the exact opposite. So if you have an attrition rate of 10%, then your retention rate is 90%, right? 90% of the members that stay with you, 10% of the members that leave. And the reason we talk in this worksheet about attrition rather than retention is you can directly compare it with the attraction rate because it's the same range. So when I look at an attraction rate, which is simply the new members that I've had on average over the last 3 years, if I look at an attraction rate that is 17%, I can immediately say, okay, I'm losing 10%, I'm gaining 17%, so my net growth every year is 7%. And so that's why we're focusing on attrition rather than retention in this entire worksheet. So this club here, this example club here, is doing well. It doesn't have a retention or an attraction problem. And we see that immediately here because we get a positive net growth rate. Now, as I mentioned already before, the success target for attrition is to be less than 15%. And ideally, what you want to have is an attraction rate that is 5% greater than the attrition rate. What does that mean if attraction is 5% greater than attrition? It simply means that your net growth is 5% or greater, because the difference between those two is your net growth rate. So the reason we call this a goal setting worksheet is that once you know these numbers about your historic 3-year average for your club, you can now very quickly define a membership goal for your club. So let's scroll down here and look at this goal setting matrix, right? So this particular club had 26 members as of July this year. And now I can go into the Adobe Fill mode here and say, okay, it even gives me potentially interesting targets. If I want to grow by 5%, my membership goal should be 28. If I want to grow by 10%, my goal should be 29. Let's just be conservative and say 28. So we put in 28 in here as my target for the end of the year. Well, what does that mean for my net membership growth? I need to achieve C equals B minus A. So 28 minus 26. I need to achieve a net growth of 2 members. Well, that sounds easily doable. But wait, there's more. Now I need to look at my average annual attrition that I need to replace. And that is, in this case, 3 members that I'm going to lose this year, period. Well, I might lose more, I might lose less, but on average over the last 3 years, I would forecast that we're going to lose 3 members in this example club. And so what I really need as a membership goal in terms of new members is 3 plus 2 is 5, C plus D, right? And so that's how you use this membership goal setting worksheet. You define what is your target at year end. You look at what does that mean as a net growth, and then you add the attrition that you need to replace to get to your actual goal of how many new members you need to recruit this year to come out at that number at the end of the year. Let's walk through some of the same example math on another example club. So this club here has an attrition rate of 19%. So almost twice as much as attrition as the previous club example, and an attraction rate of 16%. The attraction rate sounds pretty good on first glance, right? It's similar to the first club, had a rate of 17% in terms of attraction. But because of the very high attrition rate, this club has a net growth rate of minus 2.8%. So that's something we need to fix. And the example that's given here shows a check mark on we have a low retention problem that we need to address, and then a couple of recommendations. And again, that's what we're going to discuss in the breakout sessions. But let's do the math for the goal setting worksheet so that this club finds out what they have to do. They have 38 members starting July 1st. And so we go in here and say, okay, a 5% growth target would be 40. We can put in 40 in here. And that's again, net membership growth of 2 members. So pretty much what we had in the previous club, right? 2 members. But now it gets difficult because we have such a high attrition rate that we have to replace 7 members that we're going to lose this year. And that gets us to a total net target of 9 members we have to recruit. So the question really is for this club to look into how can we lower the retention rate so that we don't have to replace, how do we lower the attrition rate so that we don't have to replace so many members every year simply based on what we have to find as an average annual attrition to replace. Because recruiting 9 new members takes a lot more work than the previous club that only had a goal of recruiting 5 new members. The next example is a club that has a reasonable attrition rate. Again, we said 10% is almost a gold standard. You can't really get much better than that. But the attraction rate is only 11%. So the net growth is, and this is a rounding error, you will see that maybe in some of the other spreadsheets, should say 1%, but because those are just rounded numbers, it doesn't sometimes work out. But the problem that this club has, it has insufficient new member traction. That's why it has a blue check mark here. And this is a bit of a larger club, so let's look at the numbers. Target for 5% growth would give us a target of 56 people. So if you want to achieve 56 by year end, that is a net growth of 3 members, plus the attrition that we need to replace of 6 gives us a net growth of 9. In this particular case, the numbers are a bit larger because the club is a bit larger. But it also helps to look at the spreadsheet and say, wait a minute, we actually were really nice on a nice growth trajectory in this particular club until 21, and then had a significant drop. So we can also think about what changed, why did that happen, and is there maybe a reason for this slowdown in growth? Because 49 to 53 is a beautiful net growth, as is 53 to 55. Then it slowed down to just 1 member, and then we lost 3. So don't just blindly look at the numbers, also look at the curve and look at the actual history of your club as you work through this worksheet. And then last but not least, we have this example club that has both problems. The attrition rate is higher than 15% at 18.3. And the attraction rate is only 6%, which results in a negative growth of 12%. So this club has to look at both issues. How can we combat the low retention we have, and how can we get new members on board? And again, there's a couple of recommendations already on the spreadsheet. But let's walk through the numbers here. And I mean, you can see in the curve already that there is a problem clearly with the direction this is heading. Let's look at the membership goal. A 5% growth again would get us to about 29 by year end. So that's a 2 member net growth, plus the 5 we have to replace due to attrition gets us to a target of actual new members needed, which is 7. So much for the math and for how these worksheets work. And with that, I think I'm going to stop my screen sharing here and ask quickly if there's some questions about the basic math before we go into the breakouts. Please raise your hand and we'll call upon you. Okay, I see Richard first and then Marnie.
Yeah, you mentioned the average attrition is 10% or 10 to 15%. What's the average attraction rate for Rotary?
I don't have an average attraction rate for all of Rotary, unfortunately, but what we know is that we want to have the attraction rate to be about 5% higher than attrition. That's sort of our target goal.
All right, so 20, I guess.
If you look at the 10 to 15% rate for attrition, then yes, the answer is 15 to 20% is a good goal for the attraction rate.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Marnie. You need to unmute, Marnie.
My question would be, how are we handling the special members, the members who aren't regular members, but the service members? And do we handle them, or how do they fit into this formula?
That depends on how the club has entered the service members into the database, right? If your service members are entered into the database as active members, they're part of this equation. If you have a situation where you have, for example, a corporate membership structure where you have full members and associate members, and the associate members are entered as honorary members, then they don't factor into
No,
this.
I understand that.
But if the service members are regular active members, they fit into this picture beautifully. They're part of the equation. There's nothing different.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alex, there was a question in the chat from Yolanda about where can we get the member data? Can you just clarify?
Yeah, I want to ask, you have the spreadsheet attrition rate, attraction rate. Where can we get the data, from my Rotary or from Club Runner, and because we are not math expert, how can we get the data? I only saw the bar, like each year, the total number of members, that we have. How do we get the math?
So that there is a couple of reports in my Rotary that you can download that have the detailed club growth. I think it's called Club Viability and Growth Report, if I'm not mistaken. But in the spreadsheet, you should have received that worksheet from me today with the numbers for your club in it.
Oh, it's, the spreadsheet is already filled out the number.
Yes, all the numbers in the worksheet that I sent you via email today has the correct numbers for your club.
I also want to ask about the honorary member. So are they part of the member or they are not?
They're not. They're not counted in the membership numbers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I don't see any other hands up, so let us go to the breakout rooms. And the way this is going to work is for assistant governors, if you're here, you have a choice of going either into the breakout room for your home club, or you can go into any breakout room that you like. It's totally up to you. For president-elects and membership chairs, please look at your particular goal setting worksheet and then pick either the low retention breakout, the insufficient new member attraction breakout, or the both problems breakout session. And then there is one club only that has neither problem. And if you are part of that club, you can stay here with me in the main room. And we'll start opening some cocktails and talk about how great everything is. No, we still have some hopefully good discussions about items. I'm going to open the breakout rooms for a duration of 25 minutes, so that they will close again at 5 minutes before 8 o'clock. Sorry, 10 minutes before 8 o'clock, so that we can have a little debrief at the end with everybody in the same room. And you are able to choose any room that you want to go to. So we will open them right now. And you should see an option on your screen to go to a breakout room.